Today is Thursday, June 1st. We'll tell you what other big names are stepping into the 2024 presidential race and find out how the votes came down when the full House took up the debt limit deal. Also, one of the most significant efforts to update car safety rules in years. Plus, revelations from NASA's first public meeting about UFOs, how Twitter is responding to an uptick in phony viral photos, and which music legend just set 3 new world records. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The 2024 presidential race is about to get even more crowded. Several news outlets like the Washington Post and Reuters cite sources who say former Vice President Mike Pence and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie are going to announce their campaigns next week. In recent weeks, both of them have been criticizing the current GOP frontrunner, former President Trump, even though they were both at one time a couple of his most vocal supporters. But of course, it's not just Trump they'll have to go up against. Other Republicans already in the race include Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Senator Tim Scott, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. North Dakota's Governor Doug Burgum is also said to be launching a presidential bid soon. At this point, though, Trump still seems to be the favorite. Early polls show the overwhelming majority of Republican voters think Trump is still the strongest candidate to lead the party to victory against President Biden in 2024. It's starting to look like the U.S. might actually be able to avoid a looming government default. The full U.S. House overwhelmingly passed a sweeping bill that lets the government borrow more money to pay its bills in exchange for future spending cuts. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the bill would reduce budget deficits by $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years. Last night's House vote came down 314 to 117, with 149 Republicans and 165 Democrats voting yes. Now the bill is headed to the Senate, where leaders have promised to take it up ASAP. But they're facing the same uphill battle as House leaders did, since ultra-conservative Republicans say there aren't enough spending cuts, and far-left Democrats are against some of the provisions, like the one that raises work requirements for Americans on food aid, and another that restarts student loan payments. Still, leaders on both sides of the aisle say they're working to make sure the bill reaches President Biden's desk for his signature this weekend before a first-ever default can happen. The American jobs market has taken a surprising turn for the better. New data from the Labor Department shows the number of open jobs in the U.S. increased to more than 10 million in April, beating most economists' predictions. Plus, there were fewer layoffs as compared to the month before. This latest report could be a crucial one since it comes ahead of another big Federal Reserve meeting. Some Fed officials have said they're likely to hold interest rates steady after 10 straight increases over the last 14 months. But this new data could complicate things and mean another increase. The Fed was hoping to see the job market cool enough that companies would no longer feel the pressure to raise wages and, in turn, prices. But that might not be the case just yet. Inflation has slowed a little bit, but consumer prices are still well above the Fed's target. The central bank will make its next interest rate decision later this month. The federal government says it has a plan to make American roadways safer. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration proposed a new rule that says cars must be able to stop themselves when they detect a crash coming, even at high speeds and even in the dark. Most new vehicles on sale now have some kind of automatic emergency braking already, using radar, cameras, or both to avoid obstacles. But this new rule would apparently take it to the next level. It says braking systems should be required to avoid crashes at up to 62 miles an hour if the driver starts to brake, and 50 miles an hour if the driver is not braking at all. It also says they should be able to avoid hitting pedestrians at speeds up to 37 miles an hour. Officials say this rule could save hundreds of lives a year and prevent tens of thousands of injuries. Now the public has 2 months to comment on the proposal before it becomes official. Even then, though, it might be a while before the new rules are actually enforced. The NHTSA wants to give automakers 3 years to start installing this new technology and 4 years to fully meet the standards. Today marks the start of the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season. Forecasters with the government agency NOAA are predicting a near-normal season with 5 to 9 hurricanes. 1 to 4 of them could be major, meaning wind speeds could top 111 miles an hour. So as it does every year, NOAA is calling for people to prepare now. The officials are doing the same. This year, the Hurricane Center is rolling out a new storm surge model that's supposed to give emergency managers more time to issue evacuation orders. NOAA will also be bringing in more powerful supercomputers and better satellite observations to better track hurricanes in the future. The Atlantic hurricane season runs through November and is expected to peak in August. All right, we have more news for you still coming up, but first, this episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I had heard about Athletic Greens before, so I was intrigued. But when they sent me some AG1, I realized just how beneficial it is. And now it's part of my morning routine. 1 scoop mixed with water, that's it. And I've really noticed it helps me feel energized. A lot of mornings recently, I forget to get coffee or tea because I just don't need it as much as I used to. I also love that I don't need to take a million different pills each day. Just 1 daily scoop of AG1 covers my day's nutritional bases and supports my long-term gut health with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food-sourced ingredients. I personally like to add ice and a splash of lemon juice to mine, and it's nice tasting, easy to drink. And since I plan to have more smoothies this summer in the hot weather, I'm also excited to try putting the scoop in a morning smoothie. So if you're looking for a simpler and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/newsworthy. That's athleticgreens.com/newsworthy. Check it out. It's now been a year since NASA launched a big study into UFOs. And this week, it held its first public hearing to insist it isn't hiding anything. Hundreds of questions poured in, many from people who wanted to see evidence of extraterrestrial life. At least for now, NASA says it doesn't have any, but it's not ruling anything out. The Defense Department has also formed a task force to study UFOs, and that team shared some of its findings too, saying it's examined about 800 mysterious UFO reports so far. For now, the team's leader says most sightings can be explained, but about 2 to 5% of them are still a mystery. He says there are some similarities between them, though. They tend to be round and light-colored and fly a little lower than commercial airplanes. The ones being studied can apparently travel at supersonic speed or be completely stationary. Now, both teams are looking for the best ways to keep investigating. Experts say NASA could develop facilities just for UFO research or set up a platform for anyone to give NASA data to analyze. Though they also say future investigations would benefit from more instruments that could detect unusual phenomena and trace their origins. A final report is due at the end of next month, and it's expected to outline more specific recommendations. A well-known actor who starred in that 70s show was convicted of rape this week, and he now faces 30 years to life in prison. A jury found Danny Masterson guilty of sexually assaulting 2 women he met through the Church of Scientology. Prosecutors say he drugged their drinks beforehand, and they say he then used his prominence in the church to avoid consequences for decades. The accusers say they reported Masterson to church officials first, but were warned against going to law enforcement and put through ethics programs. But the defense team argued the acts were consensual, and the church says it has no policy that keeps members from going to authorities and says it demands Scientologists abide by the laws. A sentencing hearing has not yet been set, but it's expected to happen later this summer. Amazon is paying more than $30 million to settle some pretty serious allegations. Some of them have to do with Amazon's Ring doorbell camera units. The FTC says Ring employees and contractors had unrestricted access to customers' videos for years, and a handful of them apparently spied on thousands of women with cameras that were placed in their bedrooms and bathrooms. Separately, the FTC says for years, Amazon kept children's voice and geolocation data it collected through the virtual assistant Alexa. Amazon put out statements saying it disagrees with the FTC's allegations about both Alexa and Ring and arguing it did not break any laws. But the company is still paying $30.8 million to settle the claims, saying it just wants to put these matters to bed. The settlement also says with Alexa, Amazon will have to delete inactive child accounts and info, and it will no longer be allowed to use the data to train its algorithms or improve its products. Under the Ring settlement, the company will also have to delete any customer videos and data collected from a person's face before 2018. It also has to implement a new privacy and security program that includes multi-factor authentication. The employees who were caught improperly accessing the videos have already been fired. Twitter is expanding its feature that offers fact-checking information from the public called Community Notes. So now Twitter users who already contribute to community notes and have high enough ratings can leave comments on images as well to add more context. Twitter says it's in response to an uptick in misleading images generated by artificial intelligence. Some of these fake images have gone viral recently, like one of the Pope wearing a high-fashion puffer jacket and another of a fake explosion near the Pentagon. Twitter says the goal is for community notes to automatically appear on copies of the same image, even after they're shared by separate users in new tweets. Country music legend Dolly Parton just added 3 new world records to her legacy. Guinness World Records presented her with these certificates this week. One is for the most studio albums ever released by a female country singer, since she has put out 65 of them. The second is for the longest time span between #1 hits on the U.S. Top Country Albums chart, since it's been more than 43 years. And the third is for most top 10 entries on that chart, with 48. But this is not the first time she's broken a Guinness World Record. These latest ones mean she now holds 10 record titles. And more could be coming her way since the 77-year-old singer is still making music. That's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And take it from me, it's okay if you're not a pro in the kitchen. I'm not either. I never would have thought I could make bulgogi beef noodle stir fry with cabbage, carrots, lime, and scallions. And yet, thanks to HelloFresh, I did. And the whole family loved it. HelloFresh offers easy-to-follow-along recipes with instructions and pictures, along with the pre-portioned ingredients that are easy to prepare in just a few steps. And even though it's simple and straightforward, you're still getting high-quality meals. HelloFresh provides seasonal ingredients picked at peak ripeness and travel from the farm to your home in less than 7 days, so you know they're fresh. And whether you like HelloFresh or Green Chef, they're both owned by HelloFresh, so this gives you the option to switch between the brands and get a discount from both brands with me. So go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy16 and use the code newsworthy16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy16 and use code newsworthy16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Today marks the start of Pride Month, a time meant to celebrate and show support for the LGBTQ community. It happens every year, and in most places it happens in June because of something that happened on June 28, 1969. That's when police raided a New York City gay bar called the Stonewall Inn. Bar customers resisted arrest, and witnesses threw things at police. This touched off 3 days of riots in the city, and the event has long been considered the start of the American gay rights movement. The first gay pride marches began the following year. Well, flash forward to today, and people traditionally mark Pride Month with parades, races, memorials, concerts, workshops, and more. And they often fly the rainbow flag, meant to reflect the many groups within the LGBTQ community. Some of the largest Pride events in the world are in New York City, but there are Pride events happening in almost every city across the country. Well, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.